So hello and welcome to this NPTEL course entitled 20th Century Fiction, where we're looking at Munshi Premchand's short story, The Chess Player. So we'll conclude the story with this particular session. We just come to the end of the story and just take it off from where we left last time, which is where the two men, Mirza and Mir, are playing chess outside the kingdom. So they're on the fringes of the kingdom. They have found a decrepit, an abandoned mosque where they find some safety and some security and privacy to play the game of chess. And obviously the game of chess is a distraction and deviation from any normal duties that they are supposed to be carried out as zagidars, as landlords. And the bigger political backdrop is also interesting because this is the point where the army, the East India Company army, is marching in. They're about to take over the kingdom, and yet the two men are completely oblivious to the fact that the kingdom is about to get lost, that there'll be a paradigm shift, a power takeover, and they are still absorbed in this game of chess. So that's the point where we left last time. We'll just go back to this and we'll finish the story in this lecture. So this should be on the screen. One day, both the friends were playing chess, sitting in a decrepit mosque. Mirza's position was somewhat weak. Mir Sahib was threatening him with check after check. In the meantime, they saw the soldiers of the company passing by. It was a Gora army. The Gora army is a white army, the white man's army, moving towards Lucknow to capture the city. Mir Sahib said, "The English army is advancing, God be kind." Mirza said, let it come, check, save your king. Let's watch, let's stand in a corner, do that later, what's the hurry, check. So again, I mean, look at the complete lack of interest these people have generally. The army is coming to take over, they lose everything, their households, their income, their wealth, their property, everything is going to go to the army, and yet they can't be bothered to leave the game of chess and at least watch what is about to happen, let alone retaliate or resist. They have the artillery too. There must be some 5,000 men, the faces red like monkeys. One is afraid to look at them. So again, the otherness of the army is indicated by the allusion to monkeys and red as monkeys. So there's the red army coming in. They look like monkeys, they're not like human beings. So it is obviously a racialized metaphor. But interestingly, it's reverse racism in some sense. So it's a non-white person looking at a white person and calling him a monkey. And that becomes obviously a pointer to otherness, cultural otherness, political otherness, deontological otherness. One is afraid to look at them. So the sense of fear that is sort of created, that has been generated by the arrival of the army becomes important here. Janab, don't make excuses, don't use this ruses, check. So they're beginning to fall out now because one of them is saying, Mirza is saying that, we should play this game of chess, while Mir is saying, well, let's look at the king, let's look at the army coming in, they're about to take the king away. And they begin to fall out on this particular topic. You're a strange man. Here the city is in danger, and you're only thinking of check and mate. Have you thought how we shall go home if the city is besieged? So this is the most rational question. This is the most rational response that one might have at this point in time. But obviously it's too late in the day to think about rational retaliation. So one of them is actually asking that, do you actually know that what's going to happen if the city is besieged? Can we actually go back home if the army takes over, the Red Army takes over the entire city? We shall see when it's time to go. Here it is, check and mate. So again, the whole idea is to go back to the game and not look out in terms of what's happening in the political climate. The army marched away. It was 10 o'clock. A new game was set up. So they actually finished the earlier game and set a new game after having seen the army come in. So this obviously is an indication of the complete callousness that they're exhibiting as political subjects. Mirza said, where shall we eat? It's a Rosa day today. Are you feeling very hungry? It's a fasting day. Oh, no, God knows what's going on in the city. Everything must be as usual. People must have eaten and will be sleeping peacefully. Nawab Sahib must be having fun in his harem. So this is a general picture of Lucknow. Everyone's eating and sleeping peacefully. The Nawab is having fun in his harem. All again pointers to very hedonistic lifestyles. Both of them set up another game. It was 3 in the afternoon. This time Mirza's position was shaky. The 4 o'clock bell was ringing and they heard the sound of the army's return. Nawab Wazir Ali Shah had been captured and the army was escorting him to an unknown destination. I mean, he will eventually be sent to Calcutta and that's where he'll be deported. But this is the time where he's taken out of Lucknow, and these 2 men are just watching the army come back with the Nawab. So historically there was no retaliation whatsoever. Even if you take a look at the film by Satyajit Ray, we find that even there was zero resistance offered by the army of the Nawab. So the British just come in and take him away without any bloodshed. There was no commotion in the city and no fighting, no bloodshed, nowhere. The king of a free country would have been vanquished so quietly, without any bloodshed. It wasn't a kind of non-violence that would please the gods. It was a form of cowardice, on which even great cowards would have shed tears. So this is an act of cowardice. It wasn't like a deep philosophical non-violence, the Gandhian non-violence, which would please the gods, some metaphysical attribute of restraint. It wasn't that. It was purely an act of cowardice, a complete lack of resistance, a complete lack of spine, and that is basically cowering down against this mighty army of the British. The king of a vast country like Awadh was been driven away as a prisoner, and the city of Lucknow was sleeping peacefully. This was a nether of political downfall, the most bottom position of the political downfall, the nadir of political downfall. So everything just plummeted down to the lowest point conceivable in terms of political prestige, in terms of political authority. Everything comes to an end. It was the end of an era. And the narrator obviously tells us very clearly that this was an act of cowardice. Nowhere in the history of a free country was the king taken away so peacefully without any resistance whatsoever, right? So this is an act of cowardice, and the city of Lucknow was sleeping peacefully. No one was even bothered in terms of checking on what's happening politically. So the British are going to take over. The company rule is going to take place in Lucknow without anyone resisting it. Mirza said, the tyrants have captured the Nawab Sahib. Never mind, save your king. And this becomes a very ironical statement, because your king over here refers to obviously the chess piece of the king on board. And that is a central problem in this particular story, that there's no attention given to the real king outside, and the entire attention is on a proxy king, the chessboard king, the game king. Right, so this obviously is a very sad reflection of the priority of these people. So their priority is entirely focused on saving the chess pieces, on saving the ludic landscape rather than the real political landscape. So the real political landscape gets less important than the ludic landscape. The ludic landscape, the playful landscape of procrastination, absorption, narcissism, indulgence. So that becomes more important. That becomes more worthy of protection rather than the real political landscape, which is obviously constituted by real things such as economy, political subjectivity, etc. Okay, save your king. Wait a minute, Janab, I can't concentrate at the moment. Poor Nawab Sahib must be shedding tears of blood. He should. He won't enjoy the company, he enjoys luxuries there. Check. All these are not the same. What a painful situation. That's true. Here, check again. Now it's made. There's no escape for you. So, I mean, look at the way in which there are parallels that can be drawn between the game of chess happening and a political downfall at the same time. So, one king is about to be captured in the chessboard, in the chess landscape. The other king has been captured already. So, the two kings parallel each other in terms of political predicament. And the predicament obviously becomes political as well as sort of psychological over here. By God, you are so cruel. You are unmoved even after such a great calamity. Oh, poor Wazir Ali Shah. First you save your own king, mourn for Wazir Ali Shah later. Here's checkmate, give me your hand. Right, so again, the priority is established quite clearly over here. So first you should mourn the death of your chess king rather than bothering about the bigger king in a political climate, Wazir Ali Shah. And that's something that, you can think about later. Again, the same politics of procrastination is at play over here. The army marched away with the king as a prisoner. Mirza laid another game as soon as they were gone. Defeat is always painful. Mirza said, come on, let us sing an elegy to mourn Nawab Sahib's fall. But Mirza's loyalty to the king had disappeared with his defeat. He was bent upon taking revenge. Right, so again, the sense of revenge, the sense of vendetta comes up over here only because the chess king has been vanquished, not because the real king has been captured. Right, so one of them, the winner of the chess game, he chooses to sing a song, a mourning song, an elegy for the real king, whereas the person who's been defeated, he's thinking of a way to avenge himself on the chessboard. So the entire erotic economy, the entire libidinal economy, the entire masculinist economy is directed towards a chessboard over here rather than the real political regime outside, and that's the crux of the story in some sense. It was evening. In the ruins the bats had begun to flutter and scream. The swallows had returned to their nests, but the two players were still playing, as if two bloodthirsty warriors were engaged in a mortal combat. Mirza had lost 3 successive games, and the fourth one too didn't seem to be going his way. He was playing with the determination and caution, but each time some move somehow went wrong and weakened his position. His desire for revenge was sharpened with each defeat. On the other hand, Mir Sahib was bursting into gazelles and teasing Mirza Sahib as if he had unearthed a secret treasure. Mirza Sahib was irritated, but he would utter words of praise for Mir Sahib to overcome his embarrassment. But as his position progressively weakened, he was losing his patience, so much so he began to start losing control over himself. Now, don't change your move again and again. What's that? Don't make a move and then change it. Make your move only once. Don't touch a piece unless you're moving it. You're taking too much time. This is against the rules. If someone takes more than 5 minutes to make a move, he should be treated as a loser. Now you change your move again. Please put that piece back. So the irritation is very, very apparent. Mirza is getting more and more irritated because he's losing at a stretch. He's in a role of losing, and now he takes it out on me and some other forms of irritation. So he's talking about the rules of the game. He's talking about me taking up too much time. He's talking about how things should be changed. He's talking about how once you touch a piece, you can't move it again. So his frustration is coming out. And again, look at the way in which the entire frustration, the entire agony, the entire sense of winning and losing is all enclosed and bounded inside this chessboard thing. But nothing outside the chessboard is bothering them at all. Mir Sahib's wazir was about to be taken. He said, I haven't moved yet. You've made a move. Please put the piece back where it was. Why should I put it back? I'd never let it go from my hand. This is the point where it begins to get agitated in the story. If you don't let it go, your peaceful eternity doesn't mean you haven't moved it. Now, when your wazir has been taken, you have started cheating. It is you who is cheating. Winning or losing is by luck. No one wins by cheating. Then you have been checkmated in this game. Why have you been checkmated? Okay, then replace it, place in the same piece in the same square. So this is getting more and more angry. This exchange is getting angry and more curt. Why? I won't do it. Why not? You'll have to. Tempers were rising. Both were unwilling to yield. Then the argument took a different turn. Mirza said, you would have known the rules if someone had played chess in your family. Your ancestors were grass cutters. How could you learn to play chess? Nobility is something different. One doesn't become a nobleman just by receiving a zagi. Now, the attacks become personal. So Mirza told me that, how would you know a game of chess? Because your ancestry had nothing to do with nobility. You're just becoming an upstart, Jagadai, just got some land, and that's how you claim to fame and fortune. As no one in ancestry had any sense of nobility at all. So I belong to a higher class, so I know a game of chess. Because it runs in my veins, but no one has ever played chess in the family before. So you can see how the game of chess here suddenly becomes a prestige marker. It becomes a marker of class, a marker of aristocracy, a marker of some degree of indulgence, which is only available for the aristocracy. So anyone who doesn't have that indulgence means that it's cut off from that access to aristocracy, the access to agency. What? It is your family who must have been a grass cutter. In our family, we have been playing chess for generations. Oh, leave it. You have spent your life working as a cook at Ghazi-ud-Din to become a nobleman. It's no joke, right? So again, now the secrets are out. They're attacking each other on personal fronts. They're attacking each other at, in terms of the ancestry, and it just gets uglier and uglier. Why are you blackening the faces of your ancestors? They must have been cooks. Our family has always dined with kings. You grass cutter, don't make tall claims. Hold your tongue. I'm not even used to listening to this kind of language. If someone stares at me, I pluck out his eyes. I dare you. You want to test my courage? All right, let us test each other to the end. I'm not afraid of you. Now, this becomes very violent, and the vendetta comes out very clearly. Both the friends drew the swords from the hips. It was the age of chivalry. Everyone was equipped with a sword or a dagger. Both friends were pleasure-loving, but no cowards. They had become void of political will. Why should they die for kings or kingdoms? But they were not deficient in personal courage. The fight began. There was thrusting and parrying. The swords flashed and clashed, and both, fatally wounded, fell down and died writhing in pain. They who could not spare a single drop of tear for the king died defending the viziers on the chessboard. It was getting dark. The pieces still lay on the chessboard. It was as if both the kings sitting on the thrones were shedding tears at the death of these warriors. Silence reigned all round. The broken arches, the ruined walls, and the dust-laden pillars of the mosque were watching the corpses and cursing their fate. So this is how the story ends, and we find that these two men suddenly become very valiant, suddenly become very gallant, and gallantry returns, makes a very dramatic comeback, And we also told that this was a time where everyone had swords on them all the time, because that was a marker of aristocracy. It was a marker of chivalry, although that was not really used at all for any political purpose. So again, we come back to the same point, that everything has been used for hedonistic purposes, for noble purposes, not utilitarian purposes. So these swords could have been used to offer some military resistance to the army coming in, but that was not used in that sense. Now they're used to kill each other, to protect each other's chivalry or sense of nobility. So the whole idea of chivalry and nobility become very superfluous categories over here, and yet they are willing to die, they're willing to give their lives out because of the superfluity, and that becomes more important for them than defending the political kingdom, the real political space. Right now, the final ironic scene is important over here, because the kings on the chessboard, they seem to be mourning the death of the subjects. The same subjects that could not be bothered to defend the real kings, to resist, to take over the kingdoms, and just give their own lives and slay each other to defend the kings on the chessboard. And that becomes the final ironic moment in this particular story. Now, if you contrast this ending with the ending of the film, where it's a different kind of a ending, because they have a shot at each other in pistols. They carry little pistols and they have a shot at each other, and both of them miss, right? And then they go back to playing a game of chess. So no one really dies in the film, but that's actually a more inglorious kind of an ending, because over here, at least they picked up a sword and they had some sense of agency, something to defend, some family honor, however dubious that may be. But at least they engaged in an activity because of that particular cause, and in the process they killed each other very stupidly. However, in that film, they couldn't even be bothered to shoot each other, and they miss each other's shooting, and then they forgive each other and start playing a game of chess. So they are doomed there. So in a way, it's a symbolic death in the film. It's more of a death in the film than in this particular story, because in the film they don't really die at a physical level, but morally die completely. They die at the level of morality, they die at the level of agency. Everything just goes away from them entirely. Whereas in the film, this particular story, they have a biological death, which in a way, if not redeeming them, at least gives them some sense of action in the end. In a way, they defend each other's family values and family glory and family narrative, and in the process get killed. So that being the story and the end. So we find this is a story about feudalism, this is a story about feudal honor, feudal monarchy, and the entire thing is about how this particular culture has come into an end, and how there's a new kind of culture coming in, which is going to take over the feudal, the kingdom, the feudal culture. And the new culture is obviously capitalist culture. It's an economic change, it's a ruling change, it's an administrative change, and obviously it's a military change. It's a change of governance, and that gives a very interesting picture, a very authentic picture of how the British maneuvered the ways financially into taking over different kinds of kingdoms before they became the overlord of the entire country. And obviously this is before the Sepoy Rebellion, and after rebellion happened, the company went away, and the company rule came to an end, and the Queen took over, the sovereign took over at that point in time. But at the moment in this particular story, it is a company which is taking control over the dynasty, the company taking control of the kingdom, and that becomes a very important political statement as well. So with this, we come to the end of the chess plays, and we finish all the texts in this particular point. I hope you enjoyed listening to all the texts been discussed, and I hope you took something out of it. We'll have a concluding session at the end. We'll wrap up everything and discuss everything in terms of a summary of all the texts. Thank you for your attention.